our charts for science now. Okay, so let's talk about the parts of the seed. So this is the
Seed coat.
This is pointing to
Baby
the
plant. Stored food.
Very good. And you're dragging it out again. All you have to do is seed coat, baby plant, stored food. Correct? So let's do it again.
Seed coat. Baby plant. Stored food.
All right, now look at this one. This is-
Flower. Leaf. Stem. Roots.
All right, now it's super simple, okay? Now, this one's a little more difficult. Everybody needs to pay attention. This is the process by which plants make their own food. What is that process called?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. A lot of you did not know that on the quiz. You need to know it. It will be on the test. All right? So there are 4 things needed for that process of photosynthesis to happen. One of them is
Sunlight.
and
Water. Chlorophyll.
it is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, which is the green material found in plants. Chlorophyll. And then from the air,
Carbon dioxide.
let's say it again.
Sunlight energy.
Water, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide. All right. Make sure you know that, because that will be on the test. Tropical is one of the forests we studied yesterday. The one where the rainforest is, where it rains a lot. That's tropical. Okay, let's look on page 121. And we're going to talk specifically about trees today. So let's read the terms to remember first. No, just, I get to start. You guys know that, right? I'm waiting for everybody to be close enough to the book so they can actually see what they're reading. Alright. Trunk of a tree. The stem. Crown of a tree.
The branches and leaves.
Annual rings.
Circles in the wood of a tree
trunk.
trunk.
Each circle represents a year in a tree's life. So you wouldn't want to do it just to find out how old the tree is, but you would never be able to tell how old a tree is until you cut it down and were able to count the rings. Right. Trees. Every forest depends on trees. Trees are not only the largest plants in the forest, they are the largest plants in the world. A tree has roots, a trunk for a stem, and leaves. The leaves and branches of a tree are called its crown. Some trees have flowers that make seeds. Other trees have cones that hold seeds instead. To some animals of the forest, a tree is a friend that provides a home for protection. It may also provide food to eat. To the soil, a tree is a friend that keeps it from being washed away. To the air, the tree is a friend that gives off oxygen and water. To us, the tree is a friend that keeps our air clean, provides lumber for building shelters, and bears fruit to eat. Because trees are so important, people who cut them for lumber have found ways to be good stewards of the forest. As certain trees are cut down, other trees are planted. Turn the page. How old is a tree? You have probably noticed that the trees in your neighborhood grow a little taller each year. Their trunks also become bigger around. After a tree has been cut down, you can tell its age. Look at the cut end of the trunk. You will see circles in the wood. Each circle is a year's growth of new wood. These are called annual rings. Because you know annual means a year, right? You can tell how old a tree is by counting 1 year for each annual ring. Now look closely at the trunk. The very center of the tree is where the tree first began to grow. Have you noticed that the rings in the center are darker than the outer rings? These dark rings are called the heartwood of the tree. So just remember, your heart is in the center, so the heartwood is in the center. The heartwood is much harder and stronger than the other wood. The lighter rings are called sapwood. The sapwood carries the sap, a thick, sticky liquid containing nutrients and minerals from the roots to the leaves. The bark is the skin of the tree. It protects the sapwood. Although most bark is dark, some trees have white, gray, or even a yellowish bark. Look closely at the size of the annual rings. Some rings are wide, some rings are thin. The wide rings were formed when there was plenty of rain. The thin rings were formed when the weather was dry. And that makes sense, because a tree is going to grow more when it rains, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would make a wider ring. All right, so you see all the dark rings
Yes.
in that picture right there? That's the heartwood. And you see where they're almost white at the edge?
Yeah.
You don't if you don't look. Please look at your book and look at what I'm teaching you.
That's the sapwood.
Look at the dark rings are heartwood, the light rings are sapwood. That is where the sap flows. Okay, that is where the sap flows. If you were to cut through the bark, what would start happening? Yeah, sap would start oozing out because you have damaged the, remember the bark is like its skin. It said the bark is like its skin protecting the sapwood. All right, top of the next page. As the tree grew older, the annual rings became thinner. The change in ring size happened because the tree had less growing to do. An older tree sends up less water to its leaves. The less water a tree gets, the less food it can make. Because it does not have as much food, it does not make as much new wood. All right? Now, look at that picture, and we are going to talk about the heartwood, the sapwood, and the bark. So number one, they're pointing to the heartwood. Read the heartwood. The dark rings of wood at the center of a tree trunk. And then the second one is pointing to the sapwood. Sapwood is the lighter rings of wood that carry sap. And then last of all, they're pointing to the bark. And the bark is the protective skin of a tree trunk. Name one reason trees are important. They gave us a lot, but give me one. Page.
They produce oxygen.
All right, they provide us with oxygen. They help clean the air by making more oxygen. Olivia?
Shelter by cutting them
Right.
down.
We use lumber for shelter.
It helps people breathe.
Well, we
It
already
gives
said
us
that.
carbon
We talked about the
dioxide.
oxygen. It does not make carbon dioxide. It uses carbon dioxide. It makes oxygen. We breathe oxygen, so it makes oxygen. It makes what we breathe. Okay, we breathe out carbon dioxide, which helps the plants. That's how we would help plants. That's not how they help us. They help us by making oxygen, and somebody already said that. Yes,
It's a home for some aminos.
say it again.
It's a home for some aminos.
They're animals. Animals. You were saying it backwards. Animals. Say it again.
Animals.
There you go. Yes, it is a home for some animals. Oh, and you have another one?
It provides food.
Yes, not every tree provides us with food, but a lot of trees will provide us with food, right? Do you have another one, Jonathan?
Never mind, because Owen basically said it.
Okay, all right,
I was
very
gonna
good.
say sap
Alright.
comfort food.
Well, actually, that
To
is
make
sort of a type of food. You can use the sap from maple trees to make syrup, right?
Yeah.
Did we miss one? Paige?
The paper is
And they didn't even list that one, did they? Paper is made from wood, that's true.
Water.
Yes, it does, it did say it gives off water into the air too, didn't it? Owen?
Provides food for bears.
Okay, we don't have to say providing food for every single animal. That would not be necessary. We've already said it can provide food for us,
Water.
and that would be animals too. And it does let oxygen in the air and water into the air.
It helps the dirt so it doesn't blow away.
That's the one we missed. I knew we missed one, but I couldn't think what it was without looking back and reading it again. Yes, it keeps the soil from washing away. The roots hold the soil in place. All right, I think we got them all now. All right, as you count the annual rings of a tree, what does each ring stand for? Tess. But each ring stands for how much time? Yes, 1 year, a year of growth. Every single ring is a year of growth. Which is lighter, the heartwood or the sapwood? serious answer, please.
Um,
Heartwood or sapwood?
Heartwood, sapwood,
Which one? You said both, so which one?
sapwood.
Yes, sapwood. What does it mean when the rings are thin? Why would the rings be thin? Then,
When the tree gets older, it makes less food from
alright,
getting.
that is one reason they get thinner. What would be another reason they might be thinner even when the tree was not so very old? Grace.
When there's not much rain.
Yes, when there's not as much rain, the trees would be thinner. And I really would rather you be listening to what I'm teaching instead of counting those annual rings. Okay? Because I promise you, I'm not gonna ask you on the test or quiz how many annual rings were in that picture. But I will be asking you which is lighter, sapwood or heartwood. I will be asking things like,